I never imagined I'd uncover my fiancée's heartbreaking scheme to betray my father. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. That day, the sun shone brighter than it had in weeks, but my heart felt like it was caught in a storm. I was rushing to meet my fiancée, Lisa, for what I thought would be a perfect afternoon. The little café where we first met, with its cozy tables and warm espresso aroma, felt like the right place to share my big news. I'd finally found the courage to ask her to marry me, but as I entered, the sight stopped me cold. Lisa's laughter pierced through the air, sweet as honey yet filled with a chilling edge I had never heard before. She sat across from my father. The two of them leaned in, sharing secrets that should not have been theirs to share. My heart raced. The café's chatter faded, replaced by a deafening silence that rang in my ears. I could feel the trembling in my hands as I gripped the doorframe, fear tightening my chest that I had always trusted Lisa. How could she be so close to my father? Their faces lit up with conspiratorial smiles, and my stomach twisted into knots. As I listened closer, I caught fragments of their conversation. Words like investment and plans tumbled into my thoughts like heavy stones. My father, a man who had always been my compass, was entwined in a web I never thought to question. I stepped back, my shoes scraping against the uneven floor. The light streaming in through the windows felt tainted now. What were they plotting? And why hadn't I seen it? My breath hitched as anger bubbled, only to be replaced by confusion and despair. My fiancée was hiding something monumental. Why would she betray my father? Why him? Lost in thoughts, I stumbled outside into the crisp air. The world continued, oblivious. How could everything feel so right one moment and then crash so violently the next? My hands shook as I fished my phone from my pocket, ready to confront her, ready to demand answers. But doubt clouded my mind. What would I say? Could I really handle the truth? A low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, a chilling reminder of the storm brewing inside me. I took a shaky breath, preparing to dive deep into the unknown. Just then, the café door swung wide. There stood Lisa, her eyes searching, filled with an emotion I couldn't place. Why did you leave? She asked, a hint of panic in her voice that my heart raced, caught between love and betrayal. The shadows of what was lurking behind her smile thickened. I wanted to scream, to cry, to find clarity in the chaos. But instead, I stood frozen, watching as everything I thought I knew teetered on the brink of collapse. What secrets were we hiding? What had I gotten myself into? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Lisa's delicate features, usually so inviting, now seemed sharper, more defined. I looked into her eyes, crystal blue, but staining with uncertainty, and I hesitated. The world had crumbled around me, yet she was standing there as if she were the only anchor I had left. Why did you leave? She repeated, a tremor in her voice that tugged at something deep within me. I wanted to tell her everything that was swirling in my head, but the words felt trapped in my throat. Why were you and my father? I managed to choke out, the question hanging between us like a dark cloud. I watched her expression shift, disbelief mixing with a flicker of guilt. It's not what you think, she implored, stepping closer. I remembered the way we used to stand, dopamine-soaked, lost in our own world before this chaos. Now, there was only an electric tension, the kind that ignites when something precious is teetering on the edge of collapse. Then tell me what it is, Lisa, I pressed, my voice rising, desperation fighting with a rising tide of anger. A part of me longed to reach out, to pull her into a comforting embrace, but the shadows of betrayal suffocated that instinct. She paused, her gaze falling to the ground. Please listen. It was never supposed to go this far. I clenched my jaw, the storm inside me threatening to spill out. How could you be involved with him? My father? This was supposed to be a secret for only a little while longer. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought you'd understand. Understand what? That you've been betraying the man who raised me? Each word felt like daggers, driving deeper and deeper into a wound that was festering, that I was trying to protect you. Her voice rose in desperation, cutting through the heat of our argument like a knife. Your father, he made promises to me, to help with my family's business. He wanted to invest in me, in us. But I never wanted you to find out like this. The admitted tension hanging between us felt like an unresolved puzzle, each word turning my heart to ice. I thought about my father, the enduring support he had provided through all my life struggles, his failure potentially looming just beneath the haze of betrayal. What else has he promised? I asked, the uncertainty almost paralyzing. That I can't tell you that, she said, and the pleading in her tone cracked something inside of me. I wanted to come to you first, but you were going to let me walk into this blind? I cut her off, frustrated, tears pooling in my eyes. I turned away, fighting back the tidal wave of emotions crashing over me. A gust of wind blew by, reminding me of reality. The cafe felt like a distant memory now, an unfamiliar sanctuary turned into a battleground. I loved you, Lisa, I said, struggling to hold on to the tattered remnants of our bond. How could you do this? Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. Son, I whipped around, and there stood my father, emerging from the shadows of the cafe with an unreadable expression, one I had never seen on his face before. Dad, you too? What is going on? I asked, my heart racing anew. Lisa stepped back, her hand trembling slightly against the cafe's wooden frame, uncertainty dancing in her eyes. His gaze shifted from me to Lisa, tension curling in the small space between us. I can explain, he said, the authority in his voice splintering. Something in me shrank back. I had always seen him as a man who could do no wrong, but now. As his words faded into the wind, I felt the ground under me shift unsteadily, leaving me suffocating in confusion and heartache. What do you want me to do? I whispered, more to myself than anyone else, as a silence settled over the three of us, thick as fog. Would I walk away from both? Or could I even trust either of them again? Then, just as it felt like the moment could collapse entirely under the weight of betrayal, my phone buzzed deep in my pocket. I pulled it out, my heart briefly glimmering with hope, as if a trivial notification could pierce through the tension. But the screen lit up with a message that sent chills down my spine, a photo of my father, beaming in a meeting with someone I had never seen before, the caption reading, "The deal is set. Trust has its price." I stared at it, disbelief washing over me, and felt my knees buckle slightly. Looking up, I met Lisa's concerned gaze, and for an instant, I saw a flicker of genuine emotion, a plea for understanding, perhaps, or maybe fear for what was happening. But my father, always the epitome of control, stood there with something too close to terror flickering across his features. Maybe it was not just Lisa I had to question. Maybe our lives were all entangled in a game much larger than I could have ever fathomed, a game where trust was a devastatingly fragile concept and love was perhaps the greatest lie of all. Dad, what is this? I managed to whisper, the real truth about to unleash like a torrent. In the quiet that followed, a new storm began to brew, the question lingering between us, yet unsaid, like the calm before the chaos. What had we gotten ourselves into? The whispers of confusion and betrayal hung heavy in the air, clinging to the walls of the cafe like a suffocating fog. I wanted to scream, to unleash the tempest raging inside me, but all that came was a shaky whisper challenging the silence. What is it? My father stood before me, rigid yet vulnerable, as if the heaviness of his secrets threatened to collapse the world he had built. You shouldn't have seen that, he murmured, his voice laced with tension, the pretense of control slipping through his fingers. Lisa's face fell, the color draining from her cheeks as realization dawned in her eyes. You didn't tell him? There are things you don't understand yet, things that can hurt you, he replied sharply, each word punctuated with a growing sense of urgency. I could see the panic flaring in his eyes, but also something else, a fear that ran deeper than just the potential loss of my trust. The facade that had once felt impenetrable began to crack. Things like what, Dad? Like why you've invested in Lisa behind my back? Why everything I thought I knew is a lie? The last word bled out like venom, my heart racing with each confession that had now turned sour. Suddenly, a couple seated nearby turned their heads, their curiosity piqued by our escalating voices. My cheeks burned, the rawness of the moment only intensifying my anger. This is between us. I shot at my father, my voice barely containing the betrayal etched into every syllable. Son, please, he pressed, desperation oozing from him as he stepped closer, words trembling on his tongue. There are forces at play, business decisions, deals made long before you were born. I never meant for this to involve you or Lisa. The words tasted bitter. So, you sacrificed my fiancée to protect yourself? I scoffed, gesturing dismissively at Lisa, who stood frozen like a statue, her eyes darting between us. It's not like that, she began, but the softness in her voice barely reached me. The betrayal loomed too large, drowning out any attempt at defense. That I think you both need to start telling me the truth. How did we get here? I shouted, my frustration bubbling to the surface. Behind Lisa, a small boy and his mother sat at a nearby table, the child obliviously playing with toys while the mother whispered reassurances to him, a reminder that innocence still existed in the world. I felt a pang of longing, a yearning for a life unclouded by secrets, a world where trust wasn't a delicate thread hanging by mere suspicion. Why father opened his mouth, a flicker of emotion visible in the crinkles around his eyes, but the words wouldn't come. Why couldn't you just be upfront with me? I said softly, echoing my distrust, almost pleading for anything but this reality. All this chaos, it's tearing everything apart. I felt like I was losing you both in that moment. Just then, a waitress passed by, her demeanor offering a brief moment of calm. She hesitated as she approached, pausing to scan the heavy atmosphere. With a warm smile, she softly placed a fresh cup of steaming coffee in front of me. Her kind gesture was jarring amidst the tension, a reminder that there was still good woven into the fabric of life. On the house, she said gently, not fully grasping the storm brewing, and for an instant, it struck me how fragile human connections could be over something as simple as kindness. But I was too lost in the tumult of my own emotions to appreciate her thoughtfulness. You know, I started, my voice shaking, I just want to understand why none of this was discussed beforehand. Lisa moved forward, her figure trembling as she cast a glance at my father, a silent plea, perhaps, that we could somehow bridge this chasm. I never wanted to betray you, she murmured, visible heartache crinkling her brow. I just wanted a chance to change things to help my family. Your father believed in me. And what about me? I spat back, my heart darkening as my path forward felt obscured in shadows. Did you ever stop to think how I would feel about all of this? About you too? But before either could respond, my phone buzzed again violently in my pocket, pulling me further into the deepening spiral of madness. I stared down at it, dread pooling in my stomach as I reluctantly pulled it out. Another message, another twist. It was a video link, me father's face on the screen, and beside him, a figure cloaked in darkness, their outlines obscured but the malice palpable. I pressed play, heart racing as I watched, feeling time distort, stretching far beyond any quarter of a moment I once held dear. Remember, trust is a commodity, my father said, his voice dripping with an urgency that turned my blood cold. And that has a price, a very high one. With that echoed in my mind, I looked up at my father and Lisa, each caught in their own turmoil, a storm of decisions and untrustworthy paths leading us all toward an uncertain future. Dad, I breathed, disbelief hammering in my chest. What had I unwittingly stepped into? The revelation hung between us, dangerously teetering on the edge of an abyss, as I sensed the stakes were much higher than any of us could have prepared for. Could we even navigate this dark maze together, or were we destined to lose each other, all while being bound by the very ties that threatened to destroy us? The question loomed larger, unspoken and daunting. With our fates intertwined more perilously than I ever imagined, the cliff now lay ahead, and it was only a matter of time before someone would fall. The café began to blur around me, the bustling noise morphing into an inaudible hum as the shocking video replayed in my mind like a grotesque film I couldn't pause. Each frame distorted the reality I thought I knew, painting over the canvas of my life with strokes of betrayal and hopelessness. Can this day get any worse? I mumbled under my breath, the weight of uncertainty bearing down on my shoulders like an anchor dragging me into unfathomable depths. Maybe we should leave, Lisa suggested, her voice barely above a whisper, but the tremor within her words echoed louder than her attempt at reassurance. I could hear the familiar crack in her tone, the way it dimmed like a flickering bulb caught between two power lines, and it drove another shard of anger into my heart. Leave? And go where? I shot back, frustration puncturing the air like a balloon bursting. My insides turned to ice as I considered what was left of this fractured foundation we'd rested upon. You think running away will fix this? You think ignoring it will make everything okay? My father stepped in, his face a mask of urgency mixed with desperation. Please, start from the beginning, he urged, his voice just above a murmur, a stark contrast to the inferno igniting within me. There are layers to all this, and I don't want you to leap to conclusions without what? I interrupted, gesturing wildly to encompass all I was feeling. Without hearing more lies? Because every truth you've offered so far has been laced with deception, and I don't think I can take any more. The waitress reappeared, likely oblivious to our escalating emotions, placing a slice of lemon tart before me with a comforting smile. Just thought you might need something sweet, she said, her kindness feeling like a balm on a wound I didn't know how to heal. But as I marveled at her generosity amid our personal chaos, I churned with the realization that fleeting kindness wouldn't mend the shadows closing in. What perfect world lay within something owned by my father? How many more people had he used as pawns in his game, like Lisa and me? Lisa, what else don't I know? I asked, turning my gaze onto her, hoping that perhaps she could restore some semblance of clarity amidst the chaos. Don't protect me. Just tell me the truth, no matter how much it hurts. That, her face crumpled, an open book filled with agonizing passageways of doubt and hardship. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought I could help my family without. She paused, wiping away a stray tear that insisted on making its way down her cheek. But it spiraled out of control. Help your family? I echoed. The words cut through the air, unraveling the knot in my stomach. What did she mean by that, and was it worth tearing us apart? I was approached, you see, she continued, her voice steadier now but still laced with tremulous undertones. Your father, he was invested in a business venture that was going under. I thought if I could get information leverage maybe I could save my own family's business, and you thought my father would just trust you outright? I raised my brow, disbelief creeping in. You should have come to me first. Why would you choose this path without thinking of the fallout? Do you know how it feels? The weight of those words hung in the air, taut and electric. Lisa looked as if she might break apart at my scrutiny. I never wanted to hurt you, I swear. I just felt trapped. For a moment, her vulnerability cracked through my anger. Trapped? Or selfish? The words left my mouth before I could stop them, barbed daggers waiting to land. Both, maybe, she admitted, a tremor catching in her voice. But I was scared, and I didn't know who else to turn to. Your father was a flaw in my plan, a complication. That's it? You considered me an afterthought? I could feel rage churning in my belly, but it morphed into an annoying prickle of pain rather than pure fury. What does that make me, Lisa? Just another line item in a ledger? Stop. Please. My father raised his voice, something uncharacteristic in his tone, and just like that, the tension thickened once more. I should never have let you get caught up in this, he said, turning his soft eyes toward me for the first time, revealing the man beneath the business facade. I thought, in my misguided wisdom, that shielding you from my world would keep you safe. What safety is there in deception? I countered, swallowing the bitterness that clawed at my throat. You think protecting me is worth compromising my life for some grand scheme? Before either of them could respond, my phone buzzed yet again, another indecipherable interruption squeezing at the moment. Glancing down, the dread filled the fissures in my resolve, growing larger with each passing second. It was a text from an unknown number, and with shaky fingers, I opened it. Choose wisely, your father's involvement is deeper than you think. It's not just business. Trust will cost you dearly in the end. That I felt the blood drain from my face, each letter melting away the facade we had just been piecing together. Hope evaporated like steam before the onslaught of horrifying truths ahead. Who is it from? My father asked, his heart suddenly racing. The warmth of his earlier pleading crumbling, replaced by an eerily cloaked urgency that I met his eyes, dread morphing into disbelief. I don't know, but it sounds like we're not alone in this mess. As we stood on the edge of a precipice with new treachery poised to consume the very foundation of our lives, I felt the weight of choices heavy in the air. How many more collateral damages would this dark path demand? As I stared into the depths of my father's eyes, horror washed over me at the realization that perhaps, just perhaps, he might be the very enemy I needed to prepare myself for. The atmosphere within the cafe shifted, the once warm and inviting space morphing into a suffocating cage. The sweet aroma of coffee and pastries seemed to cloy in my throat as the weight of the message sank deeper. A whirlpool of confusion and betrayal spiraled within me, the walls felt like they were closing in, and any flicker of light that dared to seep through dimmed under the looming shadows of uncertainty. Who could have sent that? Lisa's voice trembled, breaking the tense silence that enveloped us. What are they talking about? I slammed my palms against the table, trying to anchor myself against the tides of panic that threatened to pull me under. I don't know. The words came out harsher than intended, yet I was unfazed by her recoil. Each beat of my heart refused to steady, racing with the relentless panic that turned my thoughts into incoherent fragments. My father's eyes darted across the room, his gaze vacant and searching, as if the answer lay hidden among the cafe's patrons. There was a time when I looked up to him, when I admired his ability to navigate the complexities of business with ease. But now, the chinks in his armor were almost too pronounced to ignore. You need to trust me, he finally said, the appeal in his voice futile in winning back the trust he had willingly tossed aside. Trust you? My laughter was hollow, a shaky exhalation that did little to mask the tremor in my chest. How can I trust anything after discovering that my closest friends are battling their own demons in the shadows? Tell me what else you've hidden, because clearly, I don't know even half of it. Enough. My father's voice cut through, resonating like a thunderclap in the confined space. We might not have control over who is pulling the strings, but we can control how we respond. Frustration bubbling over, I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a sharp whisper. You and I are like a house of cards, ready to collapse at any single breath. You think you can shield me, but all you've done is build a wall of lies. The waitress walked by again, this time an unguarded frown etching her brow. Is everything all right? She asked, concern lacing her tone. The small act of kindness felt like an alien concept amidst our turmoil, a reminder of humanity clashing with pain-laden truths. No, everything is not all right, I snapped, then caught myself, noticing the hurt her wide eyes reflected. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lash out. I forced a smile that faltered before it even reached my lips. As if sensing the tension in the air, she hesitated, her hand lingering near my untouched tart. Just a moment, okay? I'll bring you a fresh drink. She retreated, casting one last worried glance over her shoulder as she wandered back toward the counter. Why don't we step outside? Lisa suggested softly, her eyes bright with unspent tears and uncertainty. We can figure this out together. The noble intention was there, but the loyalty I once felt toward her was now marred with doubt and betrayal. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, instantly redirecting my focus. Another message from the same unknown number. My pulse quickened as soon as I laid my eyes on the screen. Your secrets are less secret than you believe. Even when trust falters, you must choose your allies wisely. The truth will come at a cost. Confusion mixed with tatters of rage, spiraling just as swiftly as it surged within me. What the hell is this? I breathed, looking from Lisa to my father, their faces reflecting the same mix of confusion and fear. Someone is playing a dangerous game, and we've unwittingly stepped into it, my father said, voice unnaturally calm, as if the gravity of our predicament hadn't fully landed upon him. The reality began to reshape around us, the lines blurred. This wasn't merely about a betrayal nestled within our tight-knit circle. It felt sinister, a gambit far transcending personal issues and probing into a world I was utterly unequipped to handle. As fear clawed at the edges of my rational thought, I began to understand that the shadows surrounding us were entwined with destinies unseen and perilous truths we might not be prepared to face. Maybe we should go to the police, Lisa suggested hesitantly, though her voice trembled as if she feared the answer. I flinched at the thought. If this was a game, then involving authorities would only deepen our entanglement. No, I asserted. Not yet. Let's figure out who is sending these messages. Someone wants to tear us apart, but I refuse to be their pawn. Just as the resolve settled in my chest, I glanced outside the cafe, catching a glimpse of a figure lingering across the street. Dressed in dark clothing, their features obscured by a hood, the person stood motionless, eyes fixed intently on our coffee as if they awaited the perfect moment to strike. Do you see that? I motioned toward the window, my breath hitching in my throat. Lisa followed my gaze, her expression shifting to dread as she watched the figure. We should call someone. No. I cut her off, senses heightened. We can't panic. If they're watching, we need to act normal. We need to draw them in. My father nodded, a grim resolve replacing the desperation in his eyes, and as the figure began to move, disappearing into the crowd, uncertainty weighed heavily on my shoulders once more. The world outside continued on as if untouched while we stood at the precipice of a war that had only just begun. With each second that ticked, the stakes climbed ever higher. And in my heart, I already knew this was only the beginning. Just as the darkness of betrayal had loomed over our lives, I could feel the undeniable truth that the more we searched for answers, the more perilously tangled we would become. And I wasn't sure when or if we would ever unravel the chaos threatening to consume us all. The cafe felt like a battlefield, every jittery glance exchanged a shot fired in an invisible war. Outside, the bustle of the city hummed obliviously, while inside, my world hung on a fragile thread, born not just of betrayal but of impending uncertainty. Let's not act desperate, my father murmured, eyes shifting back to the door, calculating and colder than I had ever seen him. We must protect our interests, first and foremost. His grip on the table tightened, the knuckles blanching white as he fought against the rising tide of fear threatening to sweep us all away. I was painfully aware of the role reversal that had unfolded. My father, whose commanding presence had once sent shivers down the spine of adversaries, now appeared almost childlike, floundering in this unexpected storm. Protect your interests. I echoed, wrestling with the anger boiling within. What does that even mean right now? Your interests put us all at risk. We need to face this, not bury our heads in the sand. Lisa, caught between us, shifted nervously, biting her bottom lip. Her attempts to mediate fell short, neither of us was prepared to yield. The tension coiled tighter, weaving its way into the fabric of the cafe that day, acting as a silent witness to our spiraling descent. Suddenly, the weight of uncertainty was punctured by a soft, melodic chime. The cafe's door opened, inducing a brief gust of cool air as a familiar figure stepped through the threshold. My breath caught in my throat as recognition dawned. Alex? It slipped out before I could catch myself. My childhood best friend stood there, somehow radiating warmth with a reluctant smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I saw you from across the street, she said, stepping further inside, the door swinging shut behind her. I thought I'd check in. Check in? I laughed harshly. Check in casually while we're embroiled in this mess. Even as I snapped, the embers of nostalgia flickered within me. Memories of shared laughter, late-night talks under the stars, and the ancient bond that felt frayed at the edges surged unbidden. Maybe this is exactly what we need, Lisa said quietly, glancing between me and Alex, as if sensing the secrets that lay dormant, waiting to be unearthed. Alex met my gaze with the knowing expression reserved for those who have witnessed the descent into chaos. I didn't realize things had become so complicated, she said, her voice low and steady. What's happening? As I recounted the digital message that had catalyzed our unraveling, an unexpected flicker of empathy sparked in her eyes. I've been there, she admitted softly. In situations where trust is a foreign concept. My mind raced as pieces clicked together. I could ask her if she had anything to do with this, if she knew the sender, but the warmth of her presence made anything feel like betrayal. In this moment, it was astounding how I could both want to confide and shield myself from further heartache at once. It's not about me, I exclaimed, half despairing, half hopeful. It's about signs, the messages that are unraveling everything we hold dear. Sometimes the signs lead us away from the dark, Alex replied, her gaze unwavering. But often, they can lead us deeper into it. You just have to trust your instincts. Before I could truly process her words, my phone buzzed again, another message. This one shook the very foundations of my resolve. My pulse quickened as I felt the breath catch in my throat. Choose your allies wisely. You'll find what you seek where secrets shatter. As I absorbed the message, Alex's demeanor shifted. Her eyes narrowed slightly, a mixture of concern and cautious intrigue flickering across her face. You know something, she breathed, almost inaudibly. In that moment, the cafe dimmed, my father's argument slipping to the periphery as reality narrowed in on our strange convergence. No, I answered instinctively, the urge to protect overwhelming. I know nothing. She nodded slowly, though the tremor in her expression contradicted her calm. You know my stance on secrets. They have the tendency to come back and bite, don't they? Lisa shifted, her frustration blending into confusion. What do you mean? Alex, do you know something we don't? But I couldn't let this spiral further. Let's get outside, I whispered, urgency coursing through my veins. The lingering figure from earlier echoed in my memory. Perhaps more was hidden in plain view than we could see. Why? My father questioned sharply, belief teetering on the edge of disbelief. Because safety demands it, and we've been prisoners long enough. I nodded toward the door, desperation shaping my expression. And there's something we need to understand. Together, with uncertain but resolute steps, we left the cafe, the fragile shell of sanctuary cracking beneath the weight of collective fears and whispered secrets. As we stepped into the sun-drenched street, warmth enveloped USA, stark contrast to the chaos brewing beneath the surface of our lives. The reality ahead lifted the veil of pretense. What foe lay before us was still unsure, but as Alex took my hand in a surprisingly comforting gesture, I realized that whatever lay ahead would test us like never before. In that moment, amid the burgeoning tension and chaotic uncertainty, we pressed forward into the unknown. And I couldn't help but feel that the next step might be the one that would alter the trajectory of our intertwined destinies forever. Just as hope began to prickle at unveiling possibility, another message slid through, rolling out the truth: your past will be the key to their demise. And with that, dread curled in my gut. This wasn't over, it had only just begun. The sun was an unexpected ally, its golden rays slicing through the dense air as we stepped out of the cafe, together but painfully aware of the invisible chasm building between us. Outside, the world thrummed with life, oblivious to the storm breaching our personal realm. My father walked a few paces behind, his silhouette growing smaller against the vibrant backdrop of city life. Where do we go from here? Lisa asked, glancing at each of us, her voice tinged with anxiety. What could we possibly piece together after what's happened? I felt a longing to turn back, to escape the convoluted maze of our circumstances. But just as I was about to respond, Alex squeezed my hand tightly. The gesture anchored me. We need to find a way to break the cycle, she said, her tone steadied by an unexpected resolve. The best way forward is to confront the past. If you have something to say, Alex, now would be the time, my father interjected, his voice brittle and strained, enunciating every syllable as if each word were a potential landmine. "Just listen," Alex replied, undeterred by his skepticism. "All of us have our secrets buried deep, and it could be that your entanglement with people from the past holds more answers than you realize." The mention of secrets hung heavy in the air, settling like dust motes caught in the sunlight. I could feel reminders of childhood traumas coiling in my chest, fears I had stowed away that threatened to resurface. Had I truly chosen to bury them, or had they always found their way back into the light? "Let's head to the park," I suggested, knowing it had been our childhood refuge, a space where laughter could transform even the darkest of moments into fleeting joy. "We can think better there." As we walked, my mind drifted back to the days of unencumbered laughter. The swings, the rustling leaves, and the whispers of promises made beneath the expansive sky felt like a balm, urging us to cultivate memories untainted by current events. But what awaited us there now felt laden with impending dread. Arriving at the park, I led the way to an area where the trees intertwined, forming comforting alcoves under their boughs. The vibrant colors of the flowers swayed gently, mocking the turmoil that churned within me. We settled on a weathered bench, as if the very wood could absorb the chaos spilling from our hearts. "Listen," Alex began, breaking the silence. "I've seen betrayal in layers before, and often it starts with the ones closest to us." Her voice was low, each word weaving into the fabric of my fears. "I trust you, but you have to be ready for the truth, however shattering it may be." I felt as though ice water coursed through my veins, the weight of her words tangible. "What do you know?" I implored, desperate for clarity but terrified of its cost. Taking a deep breath, she locked her gaze onto mine. "Your fiancée, she's entangled with people who have more at stake than you understand." I didn't want to believe it at first, but I have seen her with them. Conversations, schemes. I didn't think it was real until the pieces started to fall into place. I wanted to deny it, to shield myself from her revelation, but what Alex presented wasn't shocking. It was a painful confirmation of my own nagging doubts. Doubts that had arisen from the shadows of whispered secrets and unexplained distances between us. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I accused, feeling anger seeping through the cracks of my skeleton. "Why wait until now?" "I wanted to confirm it, to protect you from jumping to conclusions," she replied, her eyes welling with unshed tears. "I'm sorry if it feels like a betrayal, but there's a reason I chose to come here today." "There's something greater at stake." "Like what?" Lisa interjected, trying to grasp the fraying connections between us all. "What could possibly be greater than your loyalty to your friends? We need to discover who they are working with, who is pulling your fiancé's strings. It may lead us to answers that not only involve your family but threaten everyone here," Alex said, her sharp gaze sweeping over us. Emotion surged, confusion swirled into a tornado of despair. "And how do you expect us to approach the situation?" My father finally spoke, his tone deceptively calm. "They are likely watching us, dissecting our every move, then we use it against them," Alex responded, determination cresting in her voice. "I need you to trust me. All of you. If we dig deeper, uncovering layers of deceit, we might stand a chance to turn the tables." Amid the unraveling threats that sparked like electricity, an underlying glimmer of hope began to emerge, a call to arms rather than succumbing to despair. But just as I began to embrace it, another buzzing sound sliced through the air, this time vibrating beneath my skin, crushing any breath left to make sense of it. I pulled my phone from my pocket, the dread solidifying in my throat as I read the message. "You'll wish you didn't start this. The past whispers for its reckoning. Who the hell is sending these?" I ground out, my heart racing as uncertainty clawed at my insides once more. At that moment, a realization coursed through me like ice. There was someone watching us, looming presence hidden, concealed just beneath the veil of ordinary lives. As shadows edged around us, mingling with the light of our dawning resolve, I understood this horrific reality. The precarious dance of trust had turned fatal, and the stakes were higher than any of us could bear. The facade of safety was nothing more than a mirage, and every truth wrestled from the depths might only push us further into the labyrinth where betrayal reigned supreme. As I looked into Alex's worried eyes, I wondered how many layers still remained between us and whatever gruesome truth awaited us on the other side. Would we be prepared for what lurked not just within the betrayal but entrenched within ourselves? The park, a place meant for refuge, felt increasingly stifling. The vibrant flowers, once signs of joy, now seemed suffocating, their colors intensified yet somehow muted against the backdrop of our anxious hearts. I could feel the weight of uncertainty crowding us, almost tangible as if unseen forces loomed over our heads. An echo of laughter from children at the playground nearby twisted in my heart, sounding like a distant memory of innocence I couldn't quite grasp. We were at war with shadows that none of us fully understood, arms raised to protect against invisible foes whose impacts could shatter what little remained of our trust. Maybe we should go, Lisa ventured hesitantly, casting glances at the surrounding trees, as if they were listening too. We can regroup, think about our next steps. There's a lot we still don't know. Alex looked at her, a flicker of frustration passing over her features. And run away? We've been running away long enough. Every secret has a way of clawing its way to the surface. The tremor in her voice tempered the raging storm inside me, urging me to rethink our stance. Despite everything, there was something steadfast in her commitment to battle through adversity, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, we could still knit the threads of our disintegrating lives into something coherent. I don't know how we do this, I admitted, my own hopelessness pressing down like lead. But if we're to uncover whatever is plotting against us, we'll need to navigate through these betrayals, and that means facing them head-on. It's a game of patience and strategy, Alex said. We can't allow them to see our fear. But her words, meant to comfort, only ignited the flicker of panic I had been suppressing. I wanted to believe in the strength of our gathering resolve, in our ability to fight back, yet my heart thudded painfully, reminding me of my vulnerability. A sharp intake of breath drew my attention back to Lisa just as my phone vibrated again, cutting through the thick silence. Don't look, Alex warned, but I couldn't help myself. The screen displayed yet another message, chilling and direct: you're closer than you think. Trust can be a dangerous game, enough. My shock barely masked the rage bubbling within. These threats are getting ridiculous. Who are they? Why are they playing with us? But before anyone could respond, I noticed a figure across the park, a man dressed in a dark coat, standing rigid against a tree. Although his face was obscured by shadows, the way he studied us sent ice coursing through my veins. Anxiety coiled tighter in my chest, suffocating the air in my lungs, the distance between us and him closing like a vice. Stay here, I commanded, voice low and steady. The primal instinct to protect surged forth within me, fueled more by intuition than logic. Wait, what are you going to do? Lisa reached for my arm, panic sparking in her eyes. I need to find out who he is, I replied, as I moved away from the bench, cautiously making my way toward the lurking figure, aware that every step felt loaded with danger. Behind me, I heard the anxious whispers of my family, their concern stretching across the space separating us. Please, just come back. Lisa's plea echoed in my mind, a siren call challenging my resolve. Yet, I felt compelled, almost magnetized by this mysterious man's presence that exuded an air of foreboding. As I stepped closer, he turned, and for a brief moment, our eyes locked. My heart raced as I registered the recognition that flashed across his expression, an unacknowledged familiarity paired with a menacing smirk that churned my stomach. Hello, he said, his voice smooth, almost lulling, yet shadowed with an invitation to fear. You've been digging around in places you shouldn't be. Who are you? I managed, forcing an air of bravado, though the tremor in my voice betrayed my nerves. Mysteries are best left undiscovered, wouldn't you agree? His eyes glinted with something that sent a chill down my spine. Especially when those secrets involve people you loved. I felt a rush of anger. What do you know about my fiancée? I demanded. If you know something, you better tell me. He chuckled softly, the sound echoing around us like a death knell. Because of your naivety, I doubt you're ready for the truth. Your little world is about to unravel, and she's closer than you think. He stepped forward, invading my personal space, forcing me to retreat. Remember, trust can be the sharpest knife you wield, and sometimes it cuts deepest when used on the ones who should matter most, and with that cryptic revelation, he turned to leave, slipping into the darkening shadows that painted the edges of the park. My mind received a whirlpool of fury, fear, and confusion. As I turned back toward Alex and Lisa, dread filled my chest. The walls were closing in, and soon, the storm would gather strength. Did you get anything? Alex's voice was urgent as I returned to them, her eyes wide with clarity, piercing through the veil of unknowing that enveloped us, but I hesitated, standing on the brink of breaking the gravity of what had just occurred. The questions surged, charging through my mind, untamed and hungry. I don't think we're ready for what's coming, I finally managed, a nervous edge threading through my voice. But he knew something. About Magda. About all of us. Lisa's face drained of color. What do you mean? What did he say? He knows more than we do, I replied, anxiety coursing with a sudden fright. And we're running out of time. As the darkness fell around us, the warmth of the day surrendered to the chilling grasp of night, I realized we had entered a fight far more perilous than anything I had ever imagined, one that twisted the hearts of those closest to us like threads in a loom, tightening, binding, and threatening to suffocate us all. With the weight of the man's words still resonating in my mind, I turned to find Alex staring at me, an unspoken challenge in her eyes. The shadows lengthened around us, wrapping the park in a suffocating silence that made my skin crawl. For a moment, we stood frozen, the air tense with the lurking secrets we couldn't yet face. Let's go home, Lisa finally said, her voice trembling, as if every ounce of courage she had was being siphoned away. We need to talk about this, whatever is happening. I glanced back at the now empty space where the man had stood, goosebumps rising along my arms. Yet, there was a compelling urge in my chase-down instinct to uncover every layer of this twisted game. How much did I truly know about Magda? About the loyalties we had taken for granted? The car ride home was riddled with a heavy silence. Lisa clutched her phone like a lifeline, her fingers trembling slightly, while Alex's jaw was set in a determined line. I stared out the window, watching the cityscape blur past a canvas of light and shadow that matched the chaos inside me. Once we arrived, the air in the small apartment felt thick with dread. Each noise echoed louder than usual: the creaking of the floor, the distant sound of traffic, the anxious tapping of Lisa's fingers on the table as she paced back and forth. "Speak, please." Alex finally broke the quiet, her tone sharp with urgency. "What did he mean by closer than you think? What does any of this have to do with Magda?" I took a steadying breath, trying to organize my thoughts but failing miserably. "I don't know everything, but he hinted that our lives are more intertwined than we realize. Maybe even more than just the three of us." Lisa paled at the possibility, stopping her pacing to face us head-on. "You think she could betray your father? After everything she's done for him?" The thought hung heavy in the air. Magda had always been the glue that held our family together, the one who seemed to radiate unwavering loyalty and love. "I want to believe it's impossible," I admitted, doubt gnawing at my insides. "But what if we don't even know what we don't know?" A shiver crawled up my spine as I replayed the man's chilling tone in my mind. "Trust can be the sharpest knife. Should we confront her? If there's something we need to know," Alex began but was interrupted by a sudden blaring of my phone, its suddenness startling all of us. I rushed to silence it, my heart racing as I recognized the caller ID. "Who is it?" Lisa asked, peering over my shoulder. "It's Magda," I replied, staring at the screen as if it were a loaded weapon. "I should answer." "Wait," Alex pleaded. "Too late." I pressed the green button, holding the phone to my ear, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. "Magda, I need to see you." Her voice came through shaky, laced with an urgency I didn't recognize. "It's important." "Can you meet me at the cafe down the street?" "I'm at home," I responded, glancing anxiously at my companions. "What's going on?" "Are you safe?" "A lot more than you realize is at stake," she replied, her words clipped. "This isn't just about your father. It's about everything we've built together and what threatens to tear it apart. I'll explain when I see you." Her tone sent another wave of dread crashing through me. "Okay. I'll be there. Just be careful. After we hung up, the silence resumed, thick and oppressive. Lisa's eyes darted between me and Alex, trying to gauge the storm brewing beneath the surface. Are you really going to go? Alex asked cautiously, her doubt hanging in the air like an unresolved note. What if it's a trap? What if the stranger was right, and it's all a game she's playing? I have to know, I replied, the words leaving my lips with more conviction than I felt. If there's something she's hiding, we need to confront it. We can't let this go any longer. I'll go with you, Alex offered, trading her uncertainty for determination. We're in this together. As we stepped out into the night, an unsettling sense of gloom loomed over us. The familiar streets felt foreign, each shadow stretching ominously like fingers reaching out to grasp us. Despite the fear coiling my gut, a thin thread of hope flickered within, the kind that comes from knowing the truth lies shrouded just beyond the veil of doubt. The cafe was dimly lit, with the smell of coffee suffusing the air like a welcomed embrace. I spotted Magda seated in a corner booth, her hands clasped tightly, and an array of emotions playing across her face: fear, resolve, and something else, something I couldn't quite place. As we approached, the world around me faded away, all sounds dulled by the increasing thrum of my heartbeat. Magda? I breathed, bracing for the heaviness of revelations that might follow. Then I noticed her eyes darting toward the door behind us. Instinctively, I turned and saw something that set my heart racing: shadowy figures loitering outside the glass entrance, faces obscured but their intentions clear. Magda, we need to leave, I shouted, panic flooding my voice. But then, I looked back into her eyes, intensity mixed with dread, the truth still unspoken, sealed within the grasp of betrayal and loyalty. A realization struck me like lightning. I never imagined I'd uncover my fiancé's heartbreaking scheme to betray my father. But that was no longer the only truth haunting me. We might be stepping into a trap woven not just by whispers of deceit but by revealed truths that could forever change us all. As the realization crashed over me, a tidal wave of terror threatened to swallow everything I held dear. My heart raced violently, pounding against my chest as I grasped the weight of the situation. Magda's face twisted with urgency, fear reflected in her usually stoic demeanor. I turned to Alex, silently pleading for courage as the darkness of betrayal loomed closer. Stay close, I whispered, our torches flickering against the shadows surrounding us. The figures outside grew more defined, their intentions painted clearly against the backdrop of that small cafe. Are you sure this is a good idea? Alex urged, scanning the expanse behind us, a shadow flitting through the doorway as it opened. Panic flooded my senses as I felt the walls closing in. There's no turning back now, I replied, although uncertainty clung to my words like a heavy fog. We have to find out the truth even if it shatters everything I thought I knew. The moment hung suspended, each breath laden with anxiety, until suddenly, a voice cut through the thick silence like glass shattering. You're right to be cautious, dear. It was Magda, her tone smooth yet charged with an electric intensity that reverberated in my bones. But safety is merely a flicker of light against the encroaching darkness. What are you talking about? I stammered, moving closer, the pictures of chaotic involvement with this unfolding narrative unraveling in my mind. What darkness? Magda hesitated, eyeing the figures outside. I can't explain everything here, we're not safe. They're after something far greater than this familiar weapon against all we've built, and I stand in the crossfire. The weight of her words hung suspended as comprehension dawned. Our lives were not merely entangled in personal betrayals but in a calamitous web that threatened to ensnare everyone we loved. I met Alex's thoughtful gaze. What does this mean for us? For Lisa, only that I've made choices that shaken the very roots of our lives. If I am to help you, I need you to trust me, she said, her voice low. And if we're to survive, we need to act now. Just then, the cafe door swung wide open. A chill skittered down my spine, and instinctively, we all moved closer, eyes darting to face the encroaching figures. They stepped inside with an ominous calm that belied their intentions, darkness tainting everything they approached. It dawned on me that the facade of our lives was not simply breaking, it was entirely fracturing, shattering at the very foundation. And at that moment, I realized that I had a choice between holding on to the ghosts of the past and stepping boldly into the chaos ahead. Magda's voice brought me back to reality. You must listen carefully. Your fiancée Lisa has been in over her head with players I couldn't have imagined before this moment. Stop! I yelled, catching everyone off guard. There's no use in tiptoeing around any longer. If this is truly a game, I refuse to be a pawn in it. I want the truth. My demand cracked the tension taut, igniting the flickering energy around us. As the shadows stepped closer, one figure detached itself from the rest. A familiar face emerged, and my heart plummeted. Hello, son, a smooth, almost velvety voice called, a chilling sense of familiarity flooding my senses. It was my father. The revelation struck like a thunderclap. The very man I had spent my life idolizing, now standing among those poised to answer for everything, each layer of betrayal exposing a heart that had once felt solid, now felt like sand slipping through my fingers. Why? I managed, choking on the emotion. You knew all this time. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he replied, a flicker of desperation playing across his expression. We thought we could control it, keep the chaos at bay, but it spiraled far beyond our comprehension. The coldness of his voice resounded through me as I felt the enormity of betrayal crash down again. Our family, our lives, they are all at stake. And what do you plan to do? He challenged as the figures behind him fanned out into the room, malevolent figures enforcing an agenda irrevocably tangled with our fates. The uncertainty sparked like a firework, mixing anger with confusion. I turned to Magda, who stood resolute. If this includes saving lives, it must end here with honesty and transparency. Before anyone could respond, an electric resolve surged within me. I recalled my commitment to learning the truth, to dispelling the shadows of lies that seemed unending. We can't unravel this on our own anymore. We must stand together, even with the weight of betrayal on our shoulders. One choice at a time, Magda interjected softly, her hand steady on my shoulder, grounding me. That's how we can regain control, the ability to navigate the chaos ahead. In that moment, I couldn't help but believe in the possibility unraveling the sinister knots binding us together could mitigate the darkness rumbling outside our sphere. We were more than victims craving truth, we were a potential force. Do we have your word, then? I asked Magda, desperation intertwining with hope. A solemn nod answered me. I swear. And as we faced the shadows together, I understood that forging a path through chaos required hard choices, trust entwined with betrayal, and the unwavering strength within us all to challenge the storms on the horizon. The darkness circled closer, oppressive and heavy like a curtain drawing down, but as I held my ground, I realized our faces shone brighter against its looming dread and uncertainty. In that moment, I grasped that amidst fear and doubt, love and loyalty could rise to shield USA family united in the fight against what threatened to tear us apart. The finality of my resolve solidified like a bridge spanning the chasm of our confused hearts, leading us toward a truth that would redefine us all. I will not bow to fear, I declared with my heart pounding evenly now, my voice echoing into the distance. Magda's strength met mine, our combined forces propelling us forward. Then let us step into the darkness together, hand in hand, and emerge reborn through the marrow of our truth. Together, we braced against the storm, ready to confront the shadows all around us, reclaiming every inch of our shattered lives as the dawn of our collective struggle began. Because no matter how dim the light of trust became, I would ensure it flickered and glimmered like fierce embers setting the world alight once more. Every lingering doubt faded behind me as I whispered, we will not let fear define us. We will rewrite our story with fire and truth, together. The horizon loomed large, yet somehow, that glowing ember surged brighter against the dark backdrop of despair that had once cloaked us in shadows. It ignited a war cry for all those lost in the web of deceit. Let it begin, this real quest for truth, because every ending ushers in the dawn anew.